Congress MP Shashi Tharoor has criticized the Colombian government for what he called a misplaced sense of sympathy in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor. Speaking from Bogotá, where he is leading a multi-party delegation to drum up global support for India's stand on terrorism, Tharoor said, and I quote, "We were disappointed by Colombia's reaction. They expressed heartfelt condolences for lives lost in Pakistan after the strikes, but not for the victims of terror in India." Tharoor underlined that there can be no equivalence between those who send terrorists and those who defend themselves. Take a listen.
I have to say that we were a little disappointed in the reaction of the Colombian government, which apparently expressed heartfelt condolences on the loss of lives in Pakistan after the Indian strikes, rather than sympathizing with the victims of terrorism. We will say to our friends in Colombia, there can be no equivalence between those who dispatch terrorists and those who resist them. There can be no equivalence between those who attack and those who defend. We are only exercising our right of self-defense, and if there is any misunderstanding here on this score, we are here to dispel any such misunderstanding.
Meanwhile, Congress MP Shashi Tharoor clarified that India did not engage in any third-party mediation with Pakistan following Operation Sindoor. And in fact, let's quickly take a listen to Shashi Tharoor before I give you more updates on the same.
We can only speak to the contacts that our government had. We received a number of phone calls from senior United States officials and also from senior officials of other countries, of France, of UAE, of Saudi Arabia, and so on. And the message we gave to all these countries was exactly the same. We are not interested in war. We were just conducting retribution for a terrorist attack. If they stop, we stop. If that message was then in turn conveyed by such countries to Pakistan, it may well have had an effect in persuading Pakistan to stop, knowing that their stopping would also mean India would stop. So it's possible that that's what happened. But certainly there was no sort of active process of mediation that we are aware of, certainly nothing involving us, because we never intended to begin with, from the very first day when the first terror strikes, the anti-terror strikes took place on the night of the 7th of May, the next morning we gave a public briefing to the world, televised, saying that we have no desire to prolong this. If Pakistan retaliates, we will retaliate. If Pakistan stops, we will stop. That was our consistent position every day. So there was no change. They stopped, we decided to stop. We are not the belligerent power in this particular equation.
Meanwhile, Shashi Tharoor also raised serious concerns over China's growing defense ties with Pakistan, saying that China supplies 81% of all Pakistani defense equipment. Take a listen.
Yes, sir, we are quite conscious of what you are saying. China supplies 81% of all Pakistani defense equipment. Defense is a polite word. Pakistani military equipment, much of it is not for defense, but for attack. We also know, and this is something which we respect, every sovereign country has the right to do this, that the single largest project in China's Belt and Road Initiative is in Pakistan, the so-called China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is a corridor, a highway connecting China to a port in southwestern Pakistan that permits goods to be transported relatively quickly and economically to Western China. So we are aware of that. And our concern is not with the rights of the Pakistani people to pursue development. Of course, they may do so, including with the partnership with China. Our quarrel is only with the perpetration of terror against us. If that will stop, the rest won't matter. We will pursue our own development, and we will happily leave Pakistan alone to pursue their development. with the blessings and help of China, no problem. But not when it comes to terrorism.
Let me quickly go across to my colleague Brijesh Pandey, who joins us live from the newsroom with more details on the same. Brijesh, Shashi Tharoor has called out the West for showing selective sympathy after Operation Sindoor. You know, this kind of one-sided response only hurts the global fight against terrorism and ends up protecting the real sponsors of terror, which in this case is Pakistan. Wouldn't you agree, Brijesh?
Well, I think, Shashi Tharoor does more than that. And I think, the time has come for India to engage more aggressively in pointing out Western hypocrisy. The countries which are talking about peace, the countries which are giving you sermons on, how two nuclear nations shouldn't go to war with each other, on how, certain behavioral aspect of a nation should be of somebody who's at the receiving end of terror, equivalent to somebody who has been perpetrating terror. And I think what Shashi Tharoor has done is, in Colombia, he exposed Colombia big time. They said that when Pakistan, got a dastardly terror attack in which 28 innocent civilians were killed, they did not say a word. But when India acted in self-defense, the Colombia sided with Pakistan. They say that this is the real reason why a world cannot wage an effective war against terrorism. He also went on to the extent of saying that, senior officials of United States, France, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, they all called Indian government. Their high officials called Indian government. He said that we are not the one who started the war, which is there. I mean, you have to be blind and dumb beyond imagination to see that or to equate Pakistan and India in the same equation. The fact of the matter is that it is Pakistan-sponsored Lashkar-e-Taiba, which has its roots in Pakistan, actively aided and abetted by the Pakistani army and the government, who indulged in this dastardly terror attack. What the Western world did, they immediately tried to lean upon India and try to impress upon India that, don't escalate the matter. And Shashi Tharoor very rightly pointed out that if the Western world would have shown even 50% of that sincerity in leaning upon Pakistan and making sure that they don't indulge in this terror attack or don't retaliate, situation would have been completely different. I think the time has come for us to also very aggressively point whenever countries like United States or Saudi Arabia, we understand that, it's a bipolar world, they are first world countries, but I think, nothing stops us from at least pointing out, showing the mirror to these Western worlds that when they stoop down to the level of equating a country which is facing terror attacks from a rogue nation like Pakistan just because it suits their own, their own needs and their own being a pawn in their own political calculation. I think, time has come for India to very aggressively engage with the Western world, pointing out, repeatedly, I would say, pointing out their hypocrisy when it comes to dealing with a situation like this.
Brijesh, continue to stay with us. In fact, I'm also joined by former diplomat, Ambassador Deepak Vora. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Thank you for speaking to News9. Ambassador, Shashi Tharoor has called out Colombia's response. But isn't this part of a larger problem, where the West sort of picks and chooses whose pain matters and whose doesn't? It also reminds me of famous lines by S. Shankar, our External Affairs Minister, where he said that the West thinks that its problems are the world's problems, but the world's problems aren't the West's problems. How does it really work?
Well, thank you very much, ma'am. Always a pleasure to be with you early in the morning. And we're talking about a country that I've been to, Colombia, where, now this is important, where the delegation from India that is gone is a non-official, official delegation. Now, if I, as ambassador there, were to say something, it would probably be taken in a different context. But when our political leadership across all parties, they have gone there, then it's listened to. Now, Colombia's initial reaction that, oh, so sorry, so many brothers were killed in Pakistan, it's based on incomplete information. It's a poor country. Their major exports are cocaine, I think coal and coffee. Nothing beyond that. And their engagement with India is also very limited. So where do they get their information? From the Western media. You very rightly pointed out that the initial response of the Western media, oh, India shouldn't do this, look what India has done, etc., because it suits the narrative. And they depend on this. They have no independent sources of information. So I have pointed it out to them. Going into their home, I've told them in their capital, I mean the Indian delegation, that, look, we are not happy with what you've done. I also believe, ma'am, that their ambassador in Delhi would have been summoned to the foreign ministry and given a little lecture on how these things should be handled, particularly when you are not directly involved. You may be chamchas of whichever Western power is dominant at the moment, but that doesn't mean that you can mess around. We take the example of Mexico, Brazil, Argentina. All of them are now strengthening relations with India. They understand the potential of India. As far as the West is concerned, ma'am, let me put it to you after 52 years in diplomacy and counting. Does it matter to the United States or to Britain or to France how many Indians were slaughtered by these gundas from Pakistan? It doesn't. Till it hurts them. Let me also share with you, for many years in the 80s and 90s when I was posted to the United States, we kept telling them about terror emanating from Pakistan, and the response always was, oh, that's a third world kind of issue. You sort it out, it's a law and order thing, till 9/11 happened. And when they got hurt, then they came to us and said, okay, buddy, what were you telling us about Pakistan? We said, well, where's the file we gave you that we've lost it? So this is something that we accept, ma'am, that they will, in the foreseeable future, continue to be guided, even though they might officially say we hate America, we don't like it, Yankee, go home and all that rubbish. They will continue to be guided by these people. So as rightly pointed out, I don't know who was speaking earlier, but he was absolutely right. We have to make it clear to the West, who still think that they control the world, that look, guys, India is now the fourth largest economy. In terms of comprehensive national power, we are probably third. And in terms of comprehensive national willpower, we are number one. So you behave yourselves if you want the Indian market, if you want our friendship, we are willing to give it to you, but be sensitive to my interests. If this message goes across to that universal Chachaji called the United States, I'm confident, ma'am, and I've served in Africa in these areas in developing nations, that they will listen. They'll change their policies in 30 seconds flat if they are told, buddy, behave yourself.
Absolutely, sir. I couldn't agree more with you when you say that, this message needs to be sent across. But, sir, do also tell us, how deep does this bias really run in Western diplomacy? And why does it persist despite clear evidence? Is it the India's rise that they see problematic? That they see as problematic?
Let me answer your question. You've heard of a country called China. The whole world has. Till about 30 years ago, it was considered a ninth world country. Nobody really cared about it. Then suddenly, America decided that instead of manufacturing whatever, let's say a shirt that I buy for $5, the Chinese will give it to them for 5 cents. So the profit margin of the American business fellows will increase. That is when China started rising with all the American investment. China hasn't risen on the basis of any indigenous technological development as we have. They have borrowed, they've begged, they've stolen, they've copied. Now, having seen that reaching this level, China is now telling the West that, guys, go home. I'm the new Pasha. I'm the new Amir. I'm the new Shahenshah. You guys better pay due obeisance to me. They are scared, and I think they're being very stupid, that India might one day turn around and tell the West, listen, guys, go home. I'm now powerful enough, confident enough to do what I want to alone. The difference that I think many of them, certainly amongst the intellectual circles, this recognition is coming. India is not China. And if we support the rise of India, the world's enemy number one, the West's enemy number one. Ma'am, the European Union papers say China is our enemy number one. United States says, forget about McDonald Trump and his shenanigans. They say China is our enemy number one. I think the recognition is coming, and I see this when I go to the U.S. and talk to them. The only country that can actually be a brick wall, and I'm not talking of bricks, I'm just saying a solid wall to stop China from doing what it's doing, is a country called Bharat, ma'am. That recognition is coming. I think if we keep pushing in diplomacy, we just say, if there's a 1% chance of changing somebody's opinion, you make 100% effort. That is precisely what the Indian Foreign Service is doing, what our leadership is doing. The Prime Minister's many visits to different countries, they are beginning to see India in a new light and a very positive light. We are no more a basket case like Pakistan is. We are now a very powerful, self-confident India that doesn't accept foreign assistance, ma'am. Very important for the millions of people who listen to you to know this. In fact, we help 150 countries. What more can I say? Indecisive India of the past is now Bharat Bahadur, and the world is recognizing this.
Okay, thank you so much, Ambassador Deepak Vora, for joining us with all of those important insights. Shashi Tharoor, viewers, has exposed the Western world duplicity. He's questioned Colombia's silence on Pakistan's attack, and he has also said that there was no third-party mediation that was required. Let's quickly take a listen.
I have to say that we were a little disappointed in the reaction of the Colombian government, which apparently expressed heartfelt condolences on the loss of lives in Pakistan after the Indian strikes, rather than sympathizing with the victims of terrorism. we will say to our friends in Colombia, there can be no equivalence between those who dispatch terrorists and those who resist them. There can be no equivalence between those who attack and those who defend. We are only exercising our right of self-defense, and if there is any misunderstanding here on this score, we are here to dispel any such misunderstanding.